You're listening to the Route to Resilience podcast, the show where we explore the many ways people build resilience through life's challenges. I'm your host, Anupa, and in each episode, we dive into stories, tools, and conversations that help us bounce back stronger mentally, emotionally, physically, and financially. Today, we're diving into a topic that touches every part of our lives: financial resilience. With the cost of living on the rise and a new tax year underway, so many of us are feeling the pressure. But what if instead of spiraling, we could shift gears and take small but powerful steps towards stability and growth? To help us unpack this, I'm joined by Renee Popplewell, the founder and face behind the Accountability Playbook, a powerful coaching framework focused on financial accountability and personal growth. Renee is a finance coach and educator who's passionate about helping people build healthy money habits and achieve their financial goals. So thank you so much, Renee, for joining us. I'm so happy to have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much for the invite, Anupa. I am so happy to be here, honestly. Thank you.
Do you know what? I am really interested in this topic, and I couldn't think of anyone better to talk about money and finances. Actually, the one thing that I think would be good for our listeners is to hear about your story. Why did you get involved in this side of work? Because is this your background? Is have you always worked in finance?
I've always studied finance and accounting, so it's always been a thing that I enjoyed as a discipline, but I've never actually worked in a core financial position. But I've always been fascinated by the numbers and that sort of that sort of headspace. I don't do this work because of the academic side. I do this because of my lived experiences. So yes, I would have studied and I would have probably known academically what should have been done. Yet still, I managed to do the opposite. So I, in my in my 20s, I made some really big. Dis, in my 20s, I made some really big decisions around money that weren't the most favorable for my financial future. And I think because I had known what to do, but still not done it, there was a lot of shame and guilt and all the emotions that come up with making poor financial decisions. And I had to go
Yeah.
back to my fundamentals, my basics, my practices when I was a teenager, doing better with money and think, okay, what does Renee need to do to get out of this? Because she can. And within 18 months to 2 years, I had moved the needle from the shame, the guilt, to feeling I'm on track, I'm empowered, I'm brave, this could change, this could happen. And I've really not gone back there yet. And I've really not gone back there since because I now have the principles, not just academically, but now practically to stay out of the financial challenges. Yes, life will
Mm.
throw curveballs, yes. But
Of
when you
course.
have those fundamentals, it's
Mm.
very easy to go back into what you know will work and stick to it.
I think that lived experience is the best experience, right? And unless you've lived it, you're not going to be able to learn and grow. So I really like that you're putting what you've learned throughout your life into practice and now you're helping others. So I think that gives you a huge amount of credibility and well done for, showing up in the way that you do and helping people. I think that it is a very much needed. I think that a lot of people are struggling. I think there's a lot going on out there. I've heard so many times that this is for international listeners. The UK is an expensive country to live in. It's becoming such a struggle. So I guess what I want to know from you is what does financial resilience mean to you, and especially in the context of the rising cost of living? What would you say about that?
Yeah, well, I thought about this because I know you're all about resilience. And I thought, okay, if I'm coming to talk about finance, there definitely needs to be a focus on the resilience part of it. And people think finance and being good with money is about having savings or having investments or, living below your means. And yes, those are all true. When I think about resilience, I think about when life throws a curveball at you,
Mm,
what do you do next? Because if you're not flexible, with your money, with your strategy, when life throws a curveball at you, then we got to focus on the resilience part of it, because life
Mm.
will life. We have job losses, we have divorce, separation, we have bereavement. And no matter how much savings you have in your account, if you don't have that resilience to say, okay, fine, life has not been favorable right now, but I understand how to navigate this difficult period financially,
Mm.
that's what I want to focus on. Because there's no point saying save money, build it up in your account, and when life happens, you end up spending it anyway, or it doesn't really help you to the next level, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes that makes such, do you know, as you were speaking, I was thinking about, of course, myself and my situation. So I used to work in a full-time job. Now I don't. I don't have that security of the paycheck, that monthly paycheck. And one thing that I've kind of come to terms with it just now after 1 year of not having that security. And I've started to realize that actually, in fact, I just had an attachment to that money coming in the way that it did. But that doesn't, I've had to build a lot of resilience in that sense. But it wasn't that I didn't have money and I was worrying about not having money. Actually, it was the attachment I had to having money. And I think that's been a real big learning curve for me.
Yeah, well, interestingly, I am now 2 months into full-time entrepreneurship, and even someone who, we talk about the savings, right? Having savings, that wasn't the issue. Again, like you, it's payday. Where's the pay? Like, what's going on? It's been 2 decades plus of having steady income. But what, for me, resilience was okay. Do you know your numbers? Do you know what you need to survive, to live? What are your mandatory payments? What are your nice to haves? Can you reduce some of these nice to haves because you don't need all
Yeah.
of these all of a sudden? You know, and then once you have those numbers, you're deciding on clarity, not fair. It's because when we are accustomed to having X amount of money every month coming in, and that no longer is there, you are trying to replicate that number. When in
Yeah.
fact, have you reviewed the outgoings to see if you actually need that? Not because you
Mm.
don't want to make the previous number, but the first thing for safety is, can I meet my commitments every single month? That is already the step one for resilience, because if you think about the fear-based decisions you're making, that's
Mm.
gonna scare you. It really is gonna scare you. So
Mm.
doing your numbers is important. And I think me personally, when I had my first month of not getting a salary, it was coming up. I'm like, crap, it's not gonna happen. Like, I know it's not happening. What I did was put a standing order from my savings to my current account for the amount I needed as a payment.
Mm.
So I knew on that day money would still come in. Even though it was a transfer from the savings to the current, I set that up so I felt a little bit safer. So I didn't have the salary, but it wasn't the salary. It wasn't the salary, it was the habit of getting money in that day. So I just
Yeah.
put that in there, standing order, there's the money, I'm fine. It's all good.
That's what I was saying, the attachment to making sure that something's coming into your account. But I find what you've just said really interesting. It sounds so simple knowing your numbers,
Yeah.
but I'm 38 now and I've only done this. I've only started to do this now. I've only started to look at my outgoings, what I need, how much I need to spend, and what I need in a month. And I think that it's kind of such a basic thing that people should know. You should know what you need to comfortably live, your basic needs. How much do you need for your basic needs? And, food, roof over your head. This is kind of like simple stuff, isn't it? And I've only just started to do that now because I didn't have the security of the paycheck. And I was actually stunned to find after doing, checking my numbers and seeing how much I need a month. I was actually stunned to find that I needed a lot less than what I was getting paid.
100%. It's that is so normal. And most times we find we want to know our numbers most times when life is squeezing us. So when things
Mm,
feel like I'm not gonna make it, out of almost desperation, we go to the numbers when that should be the first point of call. But again, no one tells us these things. When we turn 18, we get a job, right? And one month we got no money, The next month, someone's paying us a lot of money.
Mm,
And we just spend the money. We don't get educated. We don't get taught on, well, put some for a rainy day or invest some or know your numbers for your bills. We just think, oh, now I have money or I could spend money. So until life throws a curveball at us, most times we're going to spend. And most times we get more money, we spend more money. Most times, right?
mm,
So
so true.
but most things you don't even need. So when you go
Mm,
down to a place where income isn't going to be coming in, you're thinking, okay, what do I really like you said, what do I really need to have to keep the roof over my head, food in my fridge, my car, payments, what I need to, and it's like, oh, I thought I needed two times as much, but actually it's so much less. And you start from there. Again, resilience is about knowing those numbers. Because if
mm,
you're just finger in the air, I think I need X, then you're making decisions based on the wrong information. And that's going to be
yeah.
scary.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if somebody's feeling overwhelmed and they're looking at new budgets and things like that, where should they start if they're already feeling behind financially? But I think this is probably the perfect advice, isn't it, for someone who's thinking, oh my gosh, I'm so behind. It's going back to the beginning, looking at the numbers, how much do I need? How much do I need to spend? Do I really need to go out this month and spend X amount, or can I stay in? It's so basic, isn't it? It's so simple.
I heard someone say this. It might be like Dave Ramsey or someone who I follow. And they say like the best time to start is when you're 18. The
Mm,
next best time to start is today. And the
yeah,
thing is, we could sit here and be like, oh, I should have done this, I could have done this. Okay, we haven't. And that's okay. But don't let what you should have, could have done stop you from starting now. Today is the best day to start. Like,
yeah,
pull a paper out. If you're listening to this, take a paper out. Literally, write on one side how much money I'm making from whatever sources. Could be one source, two sources, multiple sources, and then put on the other side your needs, your wants, and your financial goals. And if you don't mind me, I can explain a little bit about this just really
yeah,
briefly.
go.
So when we talk about needs, right? Those things that the word says, we need to have it. We need it to be safe, to be secure, to be healthy. So food, shelter, those things we need to engage in. Also, your debt repayment. So if you have a contractual obligation to pay
Mm,
debt, your minimum payment for credit cards, your monthly installments for your loans, that's also a need because you contractually said you are going to pay it. Everything else will fit into a want because if it's Netflix, if it's YouTube Premium, if it's eating out, if it's what shopping, travel, those are wants. Now people say, but Ren, I need to have YouTube Premium because I can't take the ads. I get it. You like YouTube Premium. You don't like YouTube ads, but it's not a need. So we need to be really honest with what needs are and what wants are.
yeah,
It's honesty is a big part of this conversation.
yeah.
I'm not saying don't have the premium, just put it in the correct place. And then we have financial goals. So what do we want to do? We want to pay extra money on debt repayments. That's a financial goal. So the extra money paid there is a goal. If we want to build on savings, if we want to pay off debt, or whatever
Mm,
the case is. I didn't say that before, but that's the goal. So you have these three categories. So when you're listing all the expenses, don't just list them out. They have different priorities. And based on
mm,
that, when money becomes more and more limited, when you compare income and expenses, you start from the bottom and take up the things that are least priority to you until that budget balances out. Take it out. Because we think we need something because we're used to it. But when it
mm.
comes to it, it's not actually a need. So that's why I will say start with the basics, income, expenses, and categorize them based on your needs and your wants and your financial goals. And you will
Mm.
see clearly what needs to be done.
Yeah, I really like how you categorize that. I've never really thought of it like that. And I think that's really, really helpful. So thank you for sharing that. One thing that I was thinking about when you were talking about the categories, you said you have to be really honest. And I think this is one of the interesting things because when I had to look at my numbers, I did find that I was lying to myself a lot. I didn't want to be honest because I did want the nice things. I did want to go out and spend a lot of money and, be a bit reckless. So I guess what we're going into now is it's not just numbers, right? There's
No.
something deeper there. There's something deeper going on. And so, as for example, me being reckless and not wanting to be honest about my numbers and how much I actually need. What is happening there? What is the emotional side there? What is the mindset?
Well, we see, it's a great question, right? Because we see splurging or spending on nice to haves as reckless. So you've already categorized that as being reckless. So
Yeah.
you're almost saying, I shouldn't have nice things, which means I'm reckless. And because there's a negative connotation, you will try to sneak it in because you really want it. I'm not
Ah,
saying or suggesting that you don't get nice things. I'm just saying put it in the right category so you can make the right decisions. Because I always tell my clients, we're gonna find fun in your budget. I don't care what it is. Some people get to do their eyebrows every month, and that's all they can afford. But we're gonna put something nice in that budget. Now, will they say it's reckless? Some might say that's not necessary, but you have to be motivated enough to keep at it, else you're gonna sabotage it. So we will always say, identify what category it is, and then have an honest conversation about, do I really need to have X amount of money in my budget for this activity? Because think about calling an Uber, right? Let's think about that.
mm,
You call an Uber and they ask you on the app, where are you? Because you're trying to get to point B and you say, I'm at point A. Where are you? If you don't tell the Uber where you are,
mm,
they cannot find you to take you to point B. You have to be honest. You can't say I'm at the corner when you're actually down the street. You gotta say
yeah.
I'm at the corner, right? Else there's no chance for you to get to your destination. And we're trying to get to a destination. And it starts with, hey Uber, I'm here. Or hey self, I'm here. That looks like I'm in debt by X amount. My credit score is in the poor range. The people are knocking my doors to take away my stuff because I haven't paid my bills. I lost my job. It looks like that, but be honest.
Mm,
Be honest because it doesn't. Without the honesty, where are we going?
yeah.
Where are we going? And it's uncomfortable. But we have a way of judging ourselves, making ourselves feel wrong for our past decisions. So like another jail-free card, but we are learning as we go. And sometimes we don't even have the education to know what's right or wrong. When we realize what's right or wrong, we feel it's too late to change it. So we just continue the pattern. So it's really a cycle of, hey, we can short circuit this pattern and change the narrative. We don't have to continue this cycle. But it's a lot of shame. A lot of emotions go with negative ones go with not having your money right.
Mm.
So we're gonna hide it. We're gonna hide the stuff.
It's that I haven't got my shit together and I don't want anyone to know that I haven't got my shit together, isn't it? And
100%.
there is a lot of like people are in the red, like people are in debt, but they just sort of like brush it under the carpet, and it's like, oh, if I don't think about it, then it's not really there. It's
Correct.
that kind of thing, isn't it? It's that kind of thing that's going on. But I always found it really interesting how you can get somebody who might win millions, by playing the lottery and then the next day, they've completely lost it all. I mean, what on earth is going on there?
It's not,
That's
yeah.
madness.
But it's not even a balance. Like the balance is a number. The bank balance is literally just a number. It's I've watched my parents. My parents had two very different mindsets. They both live in different countries.
Mm,
My dad, in my opinion, he did good. He did a great job. Paid, in the US, getting paid loads of money, and his language and his reality was one that he didn't have a whole lot. He'd always say, "I'm broke." I mean, I love my dad, But Dad, can I? I'm broke. I'm broke. Like it was just the language
Mm.
he used, and I'm like, okay, fine, fair. My mom, public servant, modest income. My mom never used the language that she's broke. I looked at my mom do budgets every month on a piece of paper. Every month I saw her, and I thought to myself, well, we don't have a lot of money. The income and it doesn't make sense. We should be broke. This doesn't make any sense. Yet still, I never did it out. I realized very early that it wasn't about how much money you made; it's how much of a good steward you are to it. It's not about the money. So you can get millions, you can have a modest income. If you're a good steward with good practices and good habits, that money will blow. Additionally, what I've seen is that people don't believe they're worth having big balances. They believe that their self-worth isn't such that they could hold that money. So they get rid of it. They don't have the belief in self that they could use this to actually propel them forward. Or because they make money mean so much, they try to externally validate that they're worth, but actually inside it's not there. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's more common than not that people who have big winnings, be it lotteries, be it payouts, redundancy packages, settlements, etc. It's gone. It's
Yeah.
gone. And the education that needs to happen is about detaching your self worth from your bank balance because that's where
Mm.
danger really happens.
Yeah. I think this is a really interesting conversation about self-worth being attached to money, because I had this issue. I'm actually the opposite of being a big spender. If I've got money, I hold on to it. Like I just want it to sit in my account. So I have the opposite thing. I'm not sure what that's telling me about my self-worth. I thought about it and I thought that what it was telling me is that I'm not worthy of getting more. So be grateful for what you have and just hold on to it because you're not going to get any more than this.
Yeah. But people think, we talk about abundance and scarcity, right? And that's really a mindset, not a balance, right?
Yeah.
So people think, oh, I'm abundant because I have money in my account, but the mindset is still in scarcity. I hold on so tight, I'm scared to lose it. And if you look back at how we were socialized, I talked about my parents a bit, but we hear things like, I can't afford this. For example, you may have parents who constantly told you growing up, we can't afford this, we can't afford this. Two things could happen. You believe that so much you take it into adulthood, and whenever you want to spend, your mind says you can't afford it, even if you can. Or you are so um, determined to be opposite to your parents that you buy
Mm.
everything. So there's no balance really, right? So, and it doesn't. I don't have to linkage between what that statement, for example, and what people do, but I do know that some people go one way and some go the other. Either way,
Yeah.
they've made that statement mean something to them. They've made that
Mm.
statement growing up. We can't afford this. Or on the opposite side, their parents spent so much money. They blew all their money and they think, I'll never do that. So they hold on to it or they spend like their parents. So what we
Mm.
see as children, what we experience as children, as young adults, we bring it into adulthood unconsciously. And we end up replicating or being repelled by this very little balance in the middle of what needs to happen for us to have a financially resilient life. And I think, again, back to the education, back to understanding, well, what does money mean to me? Money is a tool. Money is literally a tool to get you where you want to get to. That's it.
Mm.
It's not the thing.
Yeah.
It's not the thing. What I've seen in Nupa as well with the tool conversation is that a lot of people spend the day to day extra spending and don't really even want spending, but they spend anyway because there's no big compelling goal that they've set for themselves. So, or
Mm.
they want, like for example, I want to buy a house. Let's use a house as an example. Not everyone wants to buy one, but example, you want to buy a house. I want to buy a house, and deposits are very high. You have to get a good credit score. All the things you need to have, right?
Mm.
Because you've made money mean something to you, or you think that's not how your life is set up, you think, I could never afford that house. You would love to
Mm.
have one, but you think that's not necessarily for me. I would never be able to do that. So what ends up happening in many instances is that we end up transacting in day-to-day things, like I might go shopping in the stores, I might buy a new car on finance. And you realize when you look at the math, and I've done this math a lot of times, right? The money you needed for the deposit towards the thing you actually genuinely want and love, you've spent the money on the day-to-day Ubers and Deliveroos and Zara's and all these things because it gives you those hits every minute, every time you transact,
Mm.
and because you've counted yourself out for the big goals. You see, we make the money, our current situation, determine what we can actually see in the do in the future. So right now I'm in overdraft. How can I buy a house? Well, it mightn't happen today, but if we have the right structures, the right things in place, the right tools, you can get to that house ownership in
Mm.
2 years, for example. But we can't see so far in the future. We can't believe we can afford that because our self-worth isn't there. So we spend the money anyway on the simple little things that don't give us any satisfaction going forward.
Yeah, it does make sense. I guess the thing that we're touching upon here is that money is tied to our self-identity, but it's so subconscious that we don't realize it. So when we have these unhealthy habits each day, that are taking us away from our bigger goals and the bigger picture,
Yes.
because we have this identity of ourselves that we're fulfilling each day, each and every day. And you mentioned earlier, our identity has been shaped by what we learned when we were growing up and what we heard around us when we were growing up, and that's obviously so deeply embedded in us. So that's what is shaping our narrative and our belief systems around how we spend, how we make money, and our relationship towards money. So I guess it's a really complex but interesting thing to think about. But there's definitely people can definitely make a positive change. It's not too late.
No, it isn't. I mean, I've worked with over 100 women now in the past 3.5 years, and I have not had what? No, I've not had. Thank you. I've not had one woman who hasn't taken a massive leap towards their finances. We think I could never. There's no way, but you don't understand, which is why I always leave with my truth. Because
Mm.
I need people to open up to their truth. Because people think I do this work because I've been perfect with money all my life. They think, oh, you don't understand when I said, you want to bet? We're not going to go to battle with who understands what, but I'm telling you, I'm not trying to, but you did this, but I didn't know. But I'm telling you, I understand because I've been there. I've been there in so many different spaces where life just wasn't my friend,
Yeah.
it just wasn't my friend. And knowing the fundamentals of finance and going, and this is some really simple, it's not easy, but it's really simple stuff. And going back to the
Mm.
simplicity of it, keeping it not complicated, going back to
Mm.
basics, is really where I want to share that with women and men, because men, I've been working with men as well, but primarily women, to say, listen, if you follow these steps, you can see so much improvement if you just stick with it. And I developed
Mm.
this framework called the CORE framework, CORE. It's clarify, organize, record, and evaluate. That's the basics of
Mm.
what I share in my courses, because and I love the word core because it's really the central, the foundation of all the things around money, right? Because we think it's some complicated spreadsheet, app, formula, algorithm. No, no, no. It literally could be a pen, and paper and a calculator, because the math might need a little, you
Mm,
might need a bit of help there. I know I certainly do. And then being honest and knowing what are you working toward? What is it that you want?
mm,
If you don't have a compelling goal, your money will go down the drain. If your goal isn't going to be, if your goal isn't clearly defined, when you want to have this goal, what the actual goal is, how would you know if you succeed in the goal? If you don't know those things, then the money will just find a home. There's a quote that I love. I always share this quote. It says, "Money is a terrible master, but an excellent servant."
mm.
If you give money a chance to run things, it will run things. It will do whatever it wants to do. It will seek out, leak out, and otherwise. But if you become the master of money, it will be the most obedient thing there is.
Yeah.
But we have to become and believe we are the masters of this money. Not to make us make it mean something, but no, we have to control. We can control it. Most things we buy on a day-to-day basis, we don't even remember. We
Mm,
don't even remember. It's too easy. Transacting is so easy. It's a split second tap,
yeah.
tap. We
Yeah.
forget what we transact. But if you have that goal that's compelling, you remember £5? Nah, because that's £5 away from the goal. £10 is away from the goal. But without a goal, it's, they will do what it wants.
Yeah, I think, you're talking about having the goal and working towards it, and we have these unhealthy habits that are taking us away from the goals because there's probably a self-worth thing going on there. So how do you think somebody, because I think that I love the framework that you've built. Core is it's a great, it's amazing, it's a great tool. But when you're speaking to your clients, is it the first conversation about rebuilding their self-worth? Is that the kind of do we need to have a chat about, when financial hardship is sort of chipping away at someone, do we have to talk about their confidence and their sense of value as well as giving them the tools?
Yeah, well, it varies. I mean, I do one-to-ones and group coaching. So my group coaching follows a syllabus, right? So we start with the
Mm,
framework. But when I do one-to-ones, it's very bespoke. So
mm,
most times I start with the mindset. How do we get here? Not to because we want to focus on, oh, my mom did this and my dad did that, but really to try and almost identify why they transact with money the way they do right now.
yeah.
We don't spend much time on it, but it really opens up quite a bit about, oh, okay, yeah, I can see that correlation between then and now. But generally, what I would say to both groups, both the group program and one-to-ones, are start with one win. If you are feeling like your self-worth is on the floor when it comes to your money, hardship has hit you, life has lifed, and you feel like you have no way out, start with one win. Because we can
Mm,
we can want to reach the goal overnight. But along the way, there's so many different milestones to celebrate that it might be I haven't bought Starbucks for the entire week when I would buy it every single day. That's a win.
mm,
It might
mm,
mean I've saved £20 and I haven't spent it. Because people put money in savings and take it back out like the week after. I've put money in and I haven't touched it. That's a win.
mm.
It might be that you've done the budget. You've actually pulled the paper and a pen out and you've written it out. That's a win. We can't wait till we reach the goal to then think we're on track. We have to celebrate each and every small win because it builds the
Mm.
confidence, it builds the momentum, it builds the fact that you're making progress. It gives you
Yeah.
that extra oomph to keep going.
And the
You're going to,
self-respect, right?
yeah,
That, look, I
100%.
respect myself. I'm doing something for myself. Of course, I'm worthy of this. So it's kind of like, it kind of shifts the mindset. Every time you do something good for yourself, you're building that respect, and then the worth is going up and up and up, and you probably don't see it straight away. But then after a while, you're like, oh, actually, I am worthy of this because I've been doing it for a whole year and I've collected about 100 wins over the year, and
Exactly. And separating the facts from feelings, right? So you might still feel like, I might still feel like I'm not sure what I'm doing, but the facts don't say that you're stuck or that you're in the same place. Focus on
Mm,
the facts, right? Focus on the fact that you're actually making progress. Because if
yeah.
it's tight right now, that's fine. But it doesn't mean that you're failing. It just means it's tight right now, but you're making progress. We
Mm,
make the end result really determine and how far we are from it determine how worthy we are to be in this space. And that's where the sabotage actually happens. What's the point? This makes no sense. I'm going on a holiday. It just takes one emotional feeling that this is not working. It's not working. So I'm going to go on holiday. Screw this, like, or I work too hard when the month comes. I don't want to be having to write things down on a budget. No, but just start. It's okay. And if you don't do it fully, whatever it is, the first month, don't be hard on yourself. Be like, okay, that wasn't quite the plan, and go again, right? But I think we expect that we decide to do something and we don't do it fully, we're failing, and we go back to even before when things were not great. When
mm,
we have compassion, you're trying to change a lifetime of behavior. You're trying to change a lifetime of narratives, things that you were born into or picked up voluntarily along the way. You can't do that overnight. You can't do that in 6 months. It takes time. Have compassion with yourself, but that also helps with the resilience, because it just takes
mm.
one thing to happen to throw you back into that space. As I
Yeah.
said, it very rarely goes smoothly. Life, it very rarely goes
Mm,
beginning to end. Nothing. Very rarely, and we can't control that in many instances. But you have full control of your money. Full. Why not pour the attention into what we can actually control versus worry about what we can't actually control? It's,
mm.
that's how I see it, right? You literally could decide where the money goes, where the money stays, where it's invested. That is your gift to do
Yeah.
that. We make, yes, okay, we have bills to pay, we have prices rising, we have, cost of living is, yes, those are things that we cannot control. But even within that, you still decide every time you transact, do I transact or do I not transact?
I was thinking in my mind that when I went from full-time to unemployed, because at first I was unemployed, my self-worth, it hit rock bottom, and that's when I came to the realization how tightly attached my self-worth was to how much money I had in my account. I felt so unworthy of anything. I just felt so unworthy because I didn't have any money. But then I started to realize I do have control. And that's when I came up with the idea of, well, you could start your own business, you could make your own money. Why can't, there's so many people out there making money. Why can't you make money? And slowly, slowly, the narrative has started to change, and I have started making money for myself. It might not be some months, it might not be as much as others, but I'm bringing it in. So I really love how you say that, we have got control over not only how much money we spend, but also how much money we make. You just have to change the mindset to feeling, yes, I am worthy of this, and I do deserve this kind of happiness. Other people are doing it. Why can't I? So there's a real shift, I think, and especially when you go from, well, in my personal experience anyway, when you go from being a full-time employee to what we're both doing now, it's such a shift in mindset, and it's a beautiful thing. I call it a beautiful struggle. So it's taught me so much, and I've grown so much. But you also mentioned that, about rising rent, food costs. This is something that is happening a lot. It just keeps going up and up and up. It just seems to be a never-ending sort of increase. And people, I feel like, when I have conversations, I mean, you obviously you're probably having these kind of conversations as well. People are just like, I can't keep up. So even when people are taking your advice and they're hit with something, what do you then tell them? Because you admitted, like, life isn't going to go smoothly. You are going to come across challenges. So what is the advice then when somebody's thinking, I've done everything I can think of and I still keep getting this bad luck?
Yeah, it's a good one. Um, you see, money isn't just money, right? It's safety, it's freedom, it's how we measure success in society, even wrongly so, but it's how we measure success. So I use the word attack, when it's attacked or when it's not where it should be, because of how society sees it, because of how we allow ourselves to see it, it it's very difficult to detach from that.
Mm,
Um, because our sensibility has actually been shaken. So it really is a mindset game to separate our self-worth from our net worth. Yeah,
yeah.
we got to separate. They're not one and the same. One is just about the numbers, which we like to have a bit of money in there, sure, but our self-worth shouldn't be like, intertwined with what the balance says in our account. So we can't. I as I said, life or life. So if it's excessive sort of activities happening in life that's really causing someone to struggle, there's very little we can do sometimes in my space to change that. But it is about saying, okay, what can we change? What can we influence? I encourage persons, what's your skills? What do you have? What are your skills that you can actually monetize? I always
Mm,
encourage people to have multiple streams of income. Having one stream is is nice, but I've never in my entire career of 22 years had one stream. Never. So when I moved from full to part time, full time to employment to full time entrepreneurship, that wasn't a difficult transition.
mm,
It was for not the reasons of money, because I knew I could scale this up because I always had it in the background.
mm,
But it was still hard emotionally because your identity is tied to your job, your career,
yeah.
your title, the brand you work for. So even when you were sharing about your journey,
Mm,
you have money in the account, as you said, but it's so much more than when you move from full time working to being unemployed, as you said. Like, who am I? And it's
yeah.
not it's not the money. Like my last paycheck when I cried, and it wasn't. It was fine. It was the fact that I was grieving not being the senior leader in tech. That was my grief. So it hits us, life hits us differently for different reasons based on what we put
Mm,
our priorities on. But again, resilience means, what do you do to kind of almost offset that emotional
mm,
struggle, right? Um, so yeah, so I think it's not only individual, but I would always say, back to the question you asked, is can we not rely solely on one income? We talk about
mm,
resilience here. Let's see how we can actually diversify it as you will in investments. If you're investing in investing your money, you wouldn't put all the money in the bank. You put some in maybe ISA, maybe you might buy a property, you might put some in some stocks and bonds, whatever the case is. You diversify that investment portfolio. The same with you and your earnings, because it's brutal out here. Out there is brutal, right? Like, we can one day the next day we're not. So how can we start to see, well, what are my skills that I can actually
mm,
leverage and monetize for myself? So if life threw me a curveball one way,
mm.
it might stumble, but I wouldn't fall flat on my face. I could actually now pivot and have this thing going for me so I don't feel the full impact or the full brunt of it.
Yeah, I really love that because I was always very reliant on someone else to give me my money. And I think that if there's one thing that I've learned is that I have the power to change my own situation. I don't have to be reliant on other people. Of course, it's lovely to have support around you. If shit hits the fan, I've got X, Y, and Z that I can call upon. I think it's great to have a supportive network, but I think that one thing that I've really realized is that I can rely on myself and I have full trust in and belief in myself. And I think that's something really beautiful to learn that you do have control of your own situation. If you
100%.
if you believe, if you just give yourself a chance and believe in yourself, I guess that swings right back to self-worth again, doesn't it? Um, so yeah, it's a really, really great conversation, this. Um,
What I want to add though, Anupa, if you don't mind, one thing I realized in this journey, because I'm now 2 months in full-time business, so it's still very, very new to me, although not business, but this full-time entrepreneurial journey. And like with money, and we attach our self-worth to the bank balance, etc., a lot of my success, I interpreted it to be that seniority, that title, etc. And I went to an event on International Women's Day in March, and they had a panel there, and they said, "What does success look like for you?" And they asked a panel of women, and one woman said, "Rest." I'm like, "Rest? How do you mean? Like, rest? Like this? It doesn't make sense to me." But I was 1 week. I already knew I was going to be wrapping up full time. So I was already mindset was already thinking, what does my new chapter look like? And I remember thinking, pondering on that comment that she made. And I'm like, rest? I would have all this free time. Like I'm so used to being busy and needed and wanted and, demands to my time here and there. And these last 2 months, Anupa, I kid you not, success has shifted so much for me. What it means to be successful has shifted so much for me because yes, I work hard. I continue to work hard, but doing purposeful work, one is success. When I wake up in the morning, that is my success. Having a control over my own time, that's success. And I say this to say it's the same for money, right? Is that tool. We think that success monetarily is the bank balance. We think success is buying the nice cars and going flying first class and having all the fancy clothes. Sure. But when you look deep inside, is that really the success that you're looking for?
yeah.
Or what does society tell us looks like success? And I want people to ponder on that for a bit because I love my 9 to 5. I love my full-time job. Loved it. But you can also reframe, pivot, and find a new version of what it looks like to be successful monetarily.
Mm, yeah.
Because it's important that we understand ourselves enough to know what our priorities are. Because we could just be doing it for the external priorities of everything outside of us. I really thought that was what was success for me until I had to look inside and be like, no, that's not it.
Yeah, this is something that I've really had to look at as well because I think for a long time I was following somebody else's idea of success. And it was, get a good job, climb the property ladder, make X amount in your account. And then I just thought, no, 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 this is not me. This is not aligning with me. And it was just such a big realization that I've been living someone else's idea of what life should look like.
Yeah.
It was such a revelation. I'm so glad that after all this time, I've decided, oh, actually, I'm going to wipe the slate clean and, go on a different journey. And I've got to say, there's been no regrets, no regrets. There was one thing I wanted to ask you actually,
Yeah, sure.
um, because I know what I think about the answer to this, but I wanted to
Okay.
see what your take was.
No
Do
pressure.
you do you think that money can buy happiness?
That's a good question. So I think happiness isn't very linear. I think there are a number of components that make up what is happiness.
Mm,
I think it would be very difficult for me to be happy if I was in a lot of debt with no money coming in and I was worried about my home, and it would be difficult for me, I believe, to find sustained happiness. You know, I might have moments of it. So I know I need a certain level of financial stability
Mm.
to be able to allow me to not have financial worry. But to say it could buy it, as in I need excessive amounts of it to be happy, no. I don't need, there's a minimum that I need to not be worried. But outside of that, I don't need excess. I'm happy
Mm.
to. However, I don't even live a very extravagant life, but I'm extremely happy. I was surprised at how minimalist I actually live when I had to reevaluate my numbers. I'm like, oh, all right, Ren, good for you. I mean, I know the numbers, but I didn't realize how little I needed. If I didn't have the little though, it would be difficult. So
Yeah.
roundabout way of answering the question. So it doesn't buy happiness. However, I need a minimum amount to at least keep me in safety.
Yeah, I like how you said the word worry. I think that's key. I think if you're worried all the time, of course it can affect your whole happiness, but it is basically worry, isn't it? If you don't have it, you're going to worry, and you don't want to be worried, you want to be comfortable. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
So
but it's hard to be happy and worry. It's hard to be happy when you
yeah,
worry all the time.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah,
Absolutely. So I think that we've covered quite a lot, but I want to sort of, because we're coming to the end now, I wanted to give you an opportunity to perhaps think of a message you would give someone who's listening who might feel stuck or ashamed about their finances, or maybe offer a powerful action, or you can even share a story of a client that you've helped, whatever stands out to you that you think that we haven't covered or you would like to mention.
oh, so much I want to say, but one is not coming to mind yet. So I'll do the action. The reason why, because I'm all about accountability.
Mm.
And I'm all about taking that action. And sometimes we think we need to have a big bang action to make progress. I'd like to encourage persons to do a subscription audit. You see those sneaky little subscriptions you have in your list on your phone, and they tell you it's expired, it's auto renewing, and every
Yeah.
month you see the money coming out, and like, oh gosh, 299 for Google Storage. Okay, next month. Oh gosh, I forgot to cancel my Fabletics subscription or YouTube. You see those guys? Listen, right now, well, after the podcast, can you go into your phone and cancel them? Ask yourself, do you need this? Do I need this? Am I really, I have Spotify, Amazon Prime, Amazon Music, Apple Music. Do I need all of them? It's the same music, right? Just cancel some. Am I okay listening to YouTube ads? Yeah, it's okay. I promise you. You can skip it. It's fine. Cancel it at $16.99. Don't be afraid to start a clean slate,
Mm.
because those sneaky amounts add up. And if you have goals for your money, goals for yourself, you're throwing away money that could be put towards those goals. So I want to encourage you, right after this podcast, take 5 minutes, run through it, and cancel the ones you know you do not need.
Yeah. I think that is a powerful action because I think that it is very sneaky. And you think, oh, it's only £10 a month, it's fine. But it all adds up. And then in the end, you realize that you spent £100 on 10 different subscriptions that you don't even use. So I think that's really great advice. So I think before we end the podcast, would you like to let people know about how they can find you if they need some financial support or coaching around this topic?
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you. So, my business page is on Instagram as the Accountability Playbook. So, the Accountability Playbook. So, I'd love to connect with you there. And if we never move past Instagram, comment, listen, don't comment, just have a look at the content. My intention really is to at least share about some financial nuggets so people can still take it away. But if you want to connect even more, I run group courses as well, so look out for those. I'd love to have you my 12-week finance mastery course. It's fun. It's a group program, and it's really, dare I say, transformative. Clients' words, not mine, but I think it is as well. So I'd love to see you there, and of course my one-to-one programs. But reach out to me on Instagram. Have a look at what I'm offering, and I'd love to see you and connect. So thank you.
Yeah, and I would also like to encourage the listeners to take a look at Renee's work because I have also heard really great things, and I think the feedback is correct. I think it's been transformative for a lot of people that I know. I've known Renee for a while now, and I know a lot of people who know her and have been on her coaching, and yeah, they say very good things about it. So if you're struggling in this area, or even if you're not and you're just curious, go check Renee out. But thank you so much, Renee. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your wisdom, your insights, and the tools that you've shared with us. I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Anupa. Thanks all for listening. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Route to Resilience. Money isn't just about numbers, it's about mindset, habits, and self worth. And conversations like this remind us that healing our finances is absolutely part of the resilience journey. So don't forget to follow, share this episode with someone who might benefit, and keep tuning in for more stories of hope and empowerment. And remember, resilience is your superpower.